Yeah, welcome to my first webinar. For me, it's quite a big thing because I'm normally, when I'm presenting with a horse in an environment where the horse kind of can stimulate the conversation. I've got to look at the camera there. There we go. How's that?
Good.
So it's quite different for me, but I'm going to encourage a lot of questions towards the end. What I wanted to do to start with is just give you a little bit of background on myself. I think I've met most of you. We've got Jeannie in South Africa, who I worked with many years ago. And there's another lady also from South Africa joining us this evening, Linda, and also Jeanette. So hopefully they can join in. Anyway, so a little bit of information about Wayne. If you have any questions along the way, I'm quite happy just to stop and chat and any questions along the way. I'll just give you a brief summary of where I come from, who I am, the experiences I've had that relate to the horse industry. And it all started when I was basically a baby. My dad used to take us around the farm. We had a herd of cattle, and we also had some goats and sheep. My dad used to take us around the farm. I think from when I was about 6 months old. I was actually just looking at a photo of that today with my aunts. They used to pop me on the horse when I was about 6 months old, take me around the farm. So that's where it all started. I was brought up in a traditional kind of horse environment, I guess you can call it that. Over the years, my perception of horse training and the relationship with horses has changed since I was a child, because we were kind of really traditional. So my journey along the way has taken me on many different journeys. I was a polocrosse player for many years. I played for probably about 35 years professionally. I've coached, I've played all over the world. So that kind of started me on my journey with horses. I've always trained horses. On our farm in Zimbabwe, we had up to 80 horses at any one time. We had a tourist campsite and facility on our farm in central Zimbabwe. So we used to take tourists out on rides from anything from 1 hour to a 3-hour river ride to a 3-day trek in the African bush to see the rhino. So we used to camp out, rough camp, or have a glam camp set up for our tourists. So that operation ran up for many, many years, but unfortunately the political situation in Zimbabwe put an end to that quite a few years ago now. But being brought up on the farm with the horses, every day we were with the horses. When I used to get home from school, for example, if the fish were biting, I'd hop on my horse and grab my fishing rod and head down to the river and go fishing. I'm not really into hunting anymore, but we used to do quite a lot of hunting on horseback. So I've experienced a lot of different scenarios with horses. We used to camp out as kids and go for a week or 2 weeks out in the bush. Take a rifle with us, maybe shoot ourselves a warthog or something to eat, get some bush honey. We used to have an amazing time. So I've had an amazing childhood brought up in Zimbabwe on the bush. Later on in life, I went over to South America. I went to Argentina. I bought a couple of horses and trekked northern Argentina from Salta City up in the Jujuy province for about a year. I spent out there, bought a couple of horses, and I lived the gaucho way for about a year, camping out. I got to meet a lot of people over there, became a bit of a celebrity accidentally, I guess. But they were promoting tourism at the time in the area. So we got a lot of coverage from the local news and media, radio, that sort of thing. But the experience that I had with the horses over that period was the most amazing thing I've ever had. I saw some things that I wouldn't repeat with horses out in Argentina. There's quite a rough way of dealing with horses generally, but it opened my eyes. I think I was about 30 when I did that, so it really opened my eyes. Living with my horse 24/7 really opened my eyes to the relationship side of horsemanship, and I spent a lot of time watching the horses. Growing up in the African bush, I spent a lot of time with the wild animals out in the bush, observing baboons, impala, zebra. So I had a natural affinity and an awareness around communicating with animals. Love dogs, love cats. We always had lots of cats. So it was an amazing place to grow up, and also spend the time in Argentina. From there, I spent quite a lot of time commuting from New Zealand. I spent 15 years in New Zealand and a couple of years in Australia, where I was always involved with horses. I played polocrosse. I was part of the New Zealand squad for one of the World Cups. It's a few years ago now. Couldn't cope with that now. But I've coached in England. I've coached in, I think, 7 or 8 different countries in the world. I've played in Australia, New Zealand. I've represented internationally. I used to also come over and coach in England through the summers in my sort of late 30s. So all that experience with the horses, coaching, training, and also fortunate enough to be involved in business and learned how to deal with people. Yeah, so that's quite a long story there. Any questions so far? You're welcome to questions. We've got to unmute it. Hello?
Hi, Wayne. It's Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
Who's been most challenging, the horses or the owners?
Well, I think that's where my strength comes in, is my ability to deal with people, because it's all about changing people's perception. How do you manage yourself, your energy, your fear, anxiety? So I think the most difficult part is dealing with the owners and educating them.
Yeah.
Having said that, sometimes with the horses, I have some really difficult horses that have had a tough time. But yeah, the owners are the most challenging part for me.
Well, I guess the horses have become challenging because of the owners, haven't they?
Mostly.
Not the ones that they're with now, but maybe the ones that they were with previously. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, now I get a lot of that. So lack of preparation, a lot of it is a lack of groundwork and preparation. A lot of horses from Ireland that I work with are just literally backed or broken and chucked out on the market, and people are buying them up in this country. Not all of them, just the ones I experience. Obviously, I get the ones that are problems. So, but I'm finding that quite a big and interesting concept. People buying horses in Ireland, but generally when they get here, they're not safe to ride. So, yeah, there's a bit of a challenge there too.
I guess a lot of the island horses have been hunted from a very early age, haven't they? I guess.
Yeah, I think they're back quite young.
Yeah.
They don't really. Sorry, I'm just being handed something here.
All right.
Yeah, they. I think in Ireland there's still an old sort of traditional way of backing horses, and it's largely, unfortunately, fear-based. So when the horse gets into the UK, they've been backed or broken, but they haven't been really well educated, so they're still not safe. So I've had people in hospital around those scenarios, quite a few ending up in hospital. Okay. Anyone else got any questions? Don't need to do anything. No questions. Okay. So we're just going to. I'm just going to crack on, and we're going to look at what I'm doing. Is I'm putting together a online course. So there's a 12-module course that I'm putting together. So if you're not close to me, you can do the course. It's coming out in the next month or so. So what I'm going to do is for the first module, I'm just going to cover the basics of groundwork. Like I said, please ask questions. If you're having a specific problem with your horse, please just interrupt and ask the question, because I like questions. So we're going to just look at groundwork, the importance of groundwork, exercises, the importance of building a relationship with your horse, because the way I look at it is we need to have a relationship before we can look at the training and the learning, and then the practicing of the groundwork methods, if you like. So building trust and mutual respect through to the groundwork. Any questions? Any specific questions on groundwork?
Yeah. Can I ask a question? I'll tell you a little bit about my pony. He's a Shetland. He's 5 years old, and he has been sent away in January to be trained to pull a carriage, because that's what I decided I'd like to do with him. Well, originally I was going to have him for my granddaughter to ride, but she's terrified of him. So I thought, well, I've still got him. I'm going to teach him to drive, because I actually drive a 12-hand pony. And do indoor trials with him. So I thought, right, well, that would be an ideal thing to do with the Shetland. He was there for a while. She got a natural horsemanship lady to come out. This is up in Staffordshire, to work with him, because he was very, very nervous. He wasn't nervous before he went away. He got there, and I think it just blew his mind. She's a well-known trainer within the carriage driving community, and she is national champion 11 years in a row. She knows what she's doing, so I've not had any doubt about her. I've met her a few times beforehand, so I don't think. And the fact that she halfway through, he was supposed to be there for the minimum of 12 weeks, and she decided that it was going too fast for him. And that he should come home, carry on more groundwork, and she will see him again later on in the year. So that's what's happening. So the fact that she's done that tells me that she's taking notice of the horse, and that it was going, he wasn't coping with it all. So I'm quite pleased she's done that, rather than push him through it quickly, because there's a time limit for it. You know, he's got to be broken. I'm paying my money, and I'm quite happy with that he's come back home. He did blow his mind, and he was really nervous when he came back. Anyway, so I'm carrying on with the natural horsemanship at home. We're taking it at his pace. But one of the things she suggested was that I had another Shetland pony as a companion for him. And eventually it would be a good idea that when we put him in a carriage, he goes as a pair, because he'll have her or him next to him, and it will give him more confidence. So and somebody's loaned me a pony, and it's done his head in. He's gone absolutely ballistic, and he's running at the fence. He's not been in with her at all. It is a mare. She's 22. She's very experienced. She's taking no notice of him whatsoever. But he's running at the fence with his ears flat back and his teeth at her. And it's been going on for 2 weeks now.
Oh, wow. So you haven't been able to introduce them to each other. They can see each other.
Well, I haven't done anything yet. I don't know where to start, because I've never experienced this before. Not at this level. They squeal, they sniff and squeal. I've had horses before, and it's fine. But I'm like, he's like gone crazy. He'll do it. Yeah, and he's been doing it continuously for 2 weeks now. Every time I look, because I can see them from my house, and I'm looking at them now. And every time I look at them, I've got an electric fence between them. I've tried putting him in with the little mini cob, the 12-hand pony, and they go in well together. And
is he a gelding? Is he a gelding?
Yes, that's another gelding. So I've introduced a mare, and that was my one worry. And whether it is the mare that's the problem, the fact that this Shetland is a mare could be the problem. The cob will be won't let the little Shetland anywhere near her. So he stands in the middle. So when he's in with the cob, he can't do it, because he'll chase him. He won't let him. He literally won't let him. It's quite fascinating to watch. So he's definitely the alpha. He's definitely in charge. The cob, and he won't let Black Shetland go anywhere near the mare. But if I don't have the cob involved, the little Black Shetland just flies at the fence all day long.
How old is the Shetland?
The Shetland, we've got the Black Shetland gelding. He's 5. And the mare Shetland is 22.
Okay, and the horse you're training, how old is he?
He's the 5-year-old.
5-year-old. Okay, so he's got a much older gelding.
Yeah, we've got a cob gelding who's the 12-hand gelding. Cob gelding. He's 18. He's an experienced ride and drive. So he's no problem. He's fine.
Okay, so the 2 geldings are on one side of the fence, the mare is on the other.
Yeah.
And so they've been separated by a fence for the last 2 weeks?
Yeah. Do I put them in together and see what happens?
Yeah, that's probably your best. Your best bet is to put them in together. What you could do though is you could put your young gelding on a halter so that he's under some sort of control and start to introduce them to each other in safely, obviously. But if you had a halter and a training rope on him, you could manage the interaction if he starts to get a little bit aggressive or anything like that. He's probably once they've actually touched each other and spent some time with each other, often you'll find that they'll chase each other around. The gelding will probably chase her around for a bit. Make sure they're in a nice big area so that they can move away from each other. But you'll probably find that there'll be a certain amount of chasing going on from the gelding on the mare, or the mare may chase the gelding. You never know. So that might go on for a little bit, but eventually that they should settle.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just go with it. Just
Yeah.
let it go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let it happen.
I would, after 2 weeks, I mean, it's like I said, there's definitely going to be some chasing around one way or the other, and they'll sort each other out. But normally within a couple of hours or so, they've sorted it out.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
So,
yeah. All right. I'll give it a go.
and obviously the psychology around the horses being in a herd, it's far more beneficial for them even if a small herd of 3, that should help them settle. But the fact that they haven't been able to maybe make contact with each other, so
might be the thing that's frustrating him.
That's probably what is frustrating him, is you can't actually get over there and interact with her.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you can do it safely on a halter and a rope and just take him into the field with the others, and maybe just do it like that to start with.
Right. Okay. Lovely. Thank you very much. Okay.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
Well, let us know how it goes, eh?
Yeah, we'll do.
Great. Okay. Anyone else got any questions? Did I mute you? No other questions? No. Okay. Okay. So while we're touching on that subject, the subject of horse psychology and the importance of horses being in a herd. Often we find, especially in the UK, that we separate our horses from each other, mainly to keep them safe so that they don't kick each other. But obviously, a horse is much happier in a herd environment, and a lot of the problems that come out with the horses that I'm dealing with are related to that, such as biting, sleep deprivation, sort of grumpy horses. Often is caused from a lack of interaction with the herd. On a daily basis, I deal with horses that are nipping and biting, and that's largely to do with a lack of interaction with the herd. So one of the things you can do with the nipping or biting is to interact with the horse around the mouth. I just take the top and the bottom lip. It's hard for me to demonstrate, but just a bit of a massage on the top and bottom lip often helps with biting. Is anyone out there experiencing that sort of thing with their horse? Any biting?
Yeah, me with Rolo, definitely, Wayne. And you've done that massagey thing with him, and that's really good.
Yeah, and that's starting to help.
Yeah, I think so. He hasn't done it so much lately, but as you say, I think it's because at my yard they're in individual turnout, so they're almost craving attention, aren't they? Even if it's
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, it can become a bit of an issue too, because what excuse me, what we can often do is the first thing we do when we walk up to our horses, put our hand out and interact with the mouth, so sort of above the nose and below, and that's the sort of interaction and connection area of the horse's head. From there up is normally the play area of the horse. So if you see them rubbing on you, they'll normally use their head to rub. What can quite often happen is that we interact with the mouth, and they're in that phase of wanting to interact and connect with the mouth. And when we go take our hand from the mouth onto the head, and then we get a horse that will start to push. Debbie, I think you're familiar with that.
Yeah. Yes.
So even the slightest little nudge, just a little push of the nose on you, a lot of people miss it. but it's just a very subtle sign of dominance, and the horse being able to move your feet to a large extent. So something to be aware of, and also how you deal with it is really important. So yeah, there's something around there. So it's kind of that's one of the common things that I deal with a lot of horses. So I hope that helps. Sarah, are you there? No?
She is there, I think.
Oh, okay.
She's just ignoring you, Wayne.
You can hear me. I just wanted to ask her how her boy's doing. Okay, so that's hopefully that'll help with that sort of behavior. Sorry, I'm not well versed at sitting in front of a screen and talking, so if I don't get it right, just forgive me. So we're going to sorry.
I think you're doing great, Wayne.
Thank you. So the next thing is that the behavior in the herd, the horse gets a lot of information on behavior, on emotional and calmness from the herd. So because we can't have them in a herd, we have a lot of behavioral issues that could come from a horse not being in a herd, particularly from a young age. So if they haven't interacted with a herd, they often can be pushy. The manners are not good because they haven't had that interaction from a herd environment. Obviously, we can step in there and start to be their herd, and that's the whole goal, is to set up a relationship with the horse so that they can feel calm, confident, and comfortable in our environment. So setting that up, it's largely to do with working with yourself and changing your perception on horses. So I often say, if you think like a horse, you'll get on with a horse. If you think like a human, you'll often struggle with the horse. I often hear people saying the horse is, it's being silly today. It's being stupid. It's playing up. It's trying to take advantage of me. And horses aren't like that. Horses, if there's something going on with the horse, there's always a reason. And it could be to do with the environment, or it could be to do with our interaction with them and how we feel around horses. And often, if you go to your horse and you're feeling nervous or anxious around it, that the horse can definitely pick it up. So you're kind of setting yourself up on the back foot when it comes to building a relationship. If you're nervous and fearful of stepping into that realm, the horse can sense that. So changing how you think about things, how you do things, and how you interact with them is really important. Can I take any questions on that? Any questions, anybody?
Oh.
Hello, Gemma?
Can I ask a question? When you mentioned about them nudging their head.
Yes.
How do you deal with that? What do you need to do?
If they're pushing around with their nose?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. So the couple of subtle things you can do. One is just to, if the horse is in your space, obviously you want to back the horse out of your space. So there's different techniques we would use to do that. But if the horse is right up against you and real close to you, you could take your thumb and forefinger onto the sort of midway down the nose, and just put your thumb and forefinger on either side of the nose, and just apply a little bit of pressure onto the nose. What you might find, if the horse doesn't back up, might put its head to the left or right or up or down to try and avoid the pressure. So just taking a little bit of pressure, holding onto the nose nice and gently, and see if you can just get your horse to back out of your space like that. So that's one way of getting the horse out of your space. The other way is just to use your it depends how much groundwork you've been doing, but if you've got a training rope and a training halter, is to start to use you could use your rope with a bit of a wiggle on the end of the rope. The other thing is to just get a bit taller if the horse is coming into your space. And often these things, people saying that doesn't work, this doesn't work, and often it comes down to the intensity of the ask, if you like. Because if you're looking, if you see two horses in a sort of more natural environment, if one is on a nice green patch of grass and the other one comes over trying to take its patch of grass, for example, there's a whole bunch of signs that the horse will put out there before that horse gets any closer to, especially if it's a dominant horse. And things like flicking the tail, the ears going back. One of the first signs you'll see is a wrinkling around the eye or around the mouth. You'll often see this expression coming through on the mouth. But what happens after all those signals have been given to the horse that's approaching, is the horse on the grass will turn around and bolt towards the other horse. You've probably seen them do that to each other. So sometimes it's just sometimes your intensity has to increase just to get the horse out of your space. So, for example, just raising your arms up, getting taller. I don't know if you notice horses sparring with each other. They often try and get on top of each other. They'll rear up and sort of try and get on top of each other to dominate each other. And often when you start to ask the horse to go backwards, the head will come up. So it's just telling you it's not going to back up. It's taller than you, and you have to try a little harder. Another thing that could help is just using the end of your rope. If you're using a training rope, say 12 foot or 14, I use a 14-foot training rope. It's just to set yourself up in front of the horse and gently start with a finger, asking the horse to move back, and then putting some intensity in the rope until the horse backs up, and then taking the pressure off. Another way is that if that's not working, is to step towards the horse with a bit more intensity. So I literally, if the horse is not moving out of my space, I will make a very sharp, sudden movement to show the horse, one, that I'm there, and two, that I'm sensitive, because often they start to forget that you're sensitive, especially if they're pushing you around and taking advantage of. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Let me know how you get on, because it'll be good for me also to see how, I'm here to provide this information so we can change people's lives, change horses' life, and I'm doing that on a daily basis. But also I'm learning how to articulate that on here. So I hope that helps. Good. So any other questions from anybody? No questions? Okay. Let's crack on a little bit. So we talked a little bit about horse psychology and the herd interaction, which is really important to understand. I say a lot of my clients say you've got to understand yourself, which is a lifelong journey, which I've been on. Learning patience was my biggest learning with working with horses. I'm really patient with horses. I'm patient with people. I'm not very patient with machinery. So it's something that I've learned over the years to be patient. And that patience around your horse is important to promote calmness, to set yourself up. So what I was going to say is to be aware of yourself and to be aware of your horse. So if you think like a horse, you'll understand a horse. And then also to be aware of your environment, because there's always something going on around us in our environment that can affect the horse. They can see better than us, they can smell better than us, and they can move a lot faster than us. So often if you're watching your horse close enough, you can actually see the signs. For example, riding down the road and your horse picks up its ears and it's heard something coming. Often we haven't even heard it, and it could be a bicycle that it heard from half a kilometer away. That's how sensitive they are, or they could pick up the smell of something half a kilometer away. I have a lot of problems with horses in the UK with cows, because they don't get to interact with cows, so it's a big problem here. But the point is the relationship with your horse. So at the end of the day, you can jump that horse through fire if the relationship is there. Anyone got any questions on relationship? And I really would like some questions. No questions. Okay, so we'll skip on then. The next thing that we're going to touch on is the training techniques that horsemen use, the training techniques that I use. excuse me, and also how do you get those skills? And I read an interesting article the other day that said that if you wanted to master anything, for example, playing a guitar, you probably need to put in about 100 hours of practice in, which is about 18 minutes a day for a year, and you should be able to master that. So if I think about that, I probably do 5 to 7 hours a day for the last 5 years with horses. So that experience and that understanding and knowledge, having worked with so many different horses, because it's quite difficult when you've only got one horse to work with, so you only got one reference point. But once you've worked with a lot more horses, you start to adapt your methods to how the horse is reacting, and also to its previous interaction with people. Often I get problems with horses lunging, especially on one side. The horse will run away. But one of the biggest problems I find with lunging is that we're often chasing the horse around and moving our feet a lot and chasing the horse. So the horse is reacting in fear rather than in thinking and connection. So one of the things that I use that I've seen touched on out there in the horsemanship world, but I use as a training tool actually is relaxation. So getting the horse to relaxation. And some of you have worked with me on this and you've seen how it works. But just teaching the horse to release to pressure on the halter and be able to drop its pole below its wither. And we can find relaxation, release any anxiety that it might be experiencing. So I call this my home base. So being able to work with my horse, he might experience a level of anxiety or fear or not understanding what I'm asking. So once I've started on that process of training, of learning actually, I always have my home base. So I can bring my horse back to that home base. I can ask the horse to relax, release. And these days, the more I do this, train over the years, I've found that getting the horse to relax, and I can gauge now each horse by their facial expressions, how much time they need to relax, to think, and to process the information that I'm asking it to gather. So relaxation is, I use it as a training tool. A lot of horsemen out there don't use it as a training tool. It's everybody wants it, but not everybody can get it. And so through the methods I use, the methods there's a lot of similarity in methods with all horsemen, but the principles are what count. And relationship is definitely my first port of call, and then relaxation, so that the horse can think and learn how to manage its emotions and be able to cope with simple things like walk, trot, and canter. I work with horses that have been backed and or broken, that just still can't do 10, 20-year-old horses that can't do a walk, trot, canter, circle on a line, relaxed and thinking with a low head carriage. So yeah, be careful of lunging. I say to people, I call it lunging for communication. But if you're chasing your horse down with a big stick, you're on the wrong track, I think. If it's done with communication and understanding and compassion, I'm all for it. But if it's done with fear, it can cause a lot of problems. Horses bolting, not knowing how to laterally flex and release through the hindquarter. I get a lot of that too. Horses bolting, bucking, or rearing, and often they are not giving on the hindquarter, which basically means that they're not able to cross the inside hind leg. If you did a bend on them, they wouldn't be able to cross the inside leg in, because they are still they're prepared to move, to bolt, to get away. So that's a little bit on that. So I'm going to finally ask any more questions. We've got time for a couple of questions. Anyone got a question?
I have one, Wayne. It's Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi. I think I find I love you coming to give me lessons, but I think I find that when I go up after work in the evening, I could do with a sort of program of half an hour of things to do that would gradually build on that. And I think maybe that's what you're thinking about when you're going to do your video things. And then might be do that for a week and then move on to something else.
Absolutely.
Because I go in and I haven't really got a clear idea of exactly what I want to achieve, and therefore I never quite. He knows that as well. My horse knows that as well, I'm sure. So that would be really useful.
Yes, yeah. So the course we developing will definitely help with that, Debbie. It'll back you up with the right information and processes to to step up your game and to get to a better place. Also, you can supply part of the packages to supply videos, and I'll look at the videos and voice over and feedback information to you, so we can deal with anything that needs to be dealt with. Can be dealt with relatively quickly. So yeah, that's part of the course I'm doing. I guess through the winter too, because it's pretty wet here. It'll also be a good way to keep going, and you can do it in your own time. There's no urgency to get through the course. That you can take as long as you like. But the important thing is that you get feedback from me. You'll get a structured training process that can support you and get you going.
Oh, great! That sounds great. Yeah, it's particularly in the dark winter evenings when you only have half an hour or an hour maximum to motivate yourself and to actually do something. I think the horse can sense probably when you're not very motivated. It's that energy thing that you always say to me, that you've got to keep your energy up, because they pick up on it.
Yes, absolutely. Either keep your energy up or bring it down. Hey.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that'd be good. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. But you're on rest at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I can do some groundwork. I just can't do like tight circles or stuff like that. I've got to keep him going, because he'll go feral.
Yeah.
He tends to revert back to the wild if I don't do stuff with him. So I'm just looking to do things that are more a bit straight line stuff, I suppose, and maybe not in the school, maybe around, on more hard surfaces, walking.
Yeah. Yep. You can maybe walk him out too. Take him out for an out.
Yeah, we got fields around, and that would be nice. Yeah, I can still do some groundwork doing that rather than just in the school.
Yeah. Okay. So, is there someone else that had a question?
Yeah, could I ask, Wade, how do we find out about the course that you're planning? Will you email us, or how will we find out about it when it's ready and for us to log on?
Well, we'll definitely put it out on social media, but we've got your details, Viv, so we can probably pop you an email when it's ready to go.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, it's probably sort of 4 to 6 weeks away actually launching it. We're sort of planning to launch it at the Kent County Show. I'm doing, I think, 4 presentations at the Kent County Show this year. They've invited me along, so hopefully it's all ready to go then.
Right. Okay. Lovely. Because I'm not close enough to bring my horse, or I probably could, but not on a regular basis. So doing it online will be a great, asset for me. Thank you.
Brilliant. And one of the things that we're going to offer online kind of students is to come to a property. We're just negotiating on a property that's on the Kent Downs, so literally out the gate onto the bridleways on the downs. So we hopefully by the end of sort of September we'll have facilities set up. So what we'll do is, once you've finished a module, we'll invite you to come to the property. We've got accommodation for you and your horse, so you can come stay with us, and we can kind of sort of just go through that module, make sure that anything that needs to be ironed out, we can iron it out over a weekend or something like that. So it'll be by invitation, and it's up to you whether you come or not, but we'll have some nice accommodation and some beautiful outrides, and also setting up a forest, a 3-acre forest with obstacles and training opportunities. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure, Viv. So yeah, let us know how you get on.
Yeah, I will. Fireworks this weekend.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. That's a big one. That's a big one. Do you spend time with your horse? Do you go and sit with him, or?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, I just go and sit out in the field with him. Yeah. He's actually, since this other Shetland's come along, he's actually been coming up to me, which I was having trouble to catch him. But now, since this new pony's turned up, he's quite happy to come up to me in the field, which is lovely. So yeah, the dynamics have definitely changed. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's definitely changed, and yeah, I feel like he's taking notice of me now, which before he was having nothing to do with me. Once he got come back from this his little holiday, his boot camp that didn't work out. Yeah, he was very, very tense about the world, but he's definitely settled back. So I know that the person that's going to be doing all the work with him is going to be me, and I won't be sending him anywhere else now. So if I get him to be ridden or driven, it'll be me that's going to be doing it. So the more I learn and the bigger relationship we build up, the more chance he will have of finding himself a little career, really. He's only 5, and he's a beautiful pony. And I just think, I know he's only a Shetland, and I've never really dealt with Shetland, so this is a bit random for me. I used to have a riding horse, which I loved, but yeah, I've got quite a bad arthritis condition and couldn't ride anymore. So I decided to start driving because that was easier for me, and I really enjoy it. It's great. And we do indoor trials, so we do cones and obstacles and things and dressage. Yeah, and it's lovely, but we'll wait and see what he does.
Yeah, and you know, it's from the horse's perspective, it's based on I call it passive leadership. You can call it what you like, but once a horse has a sense that you've got it, you've got the safety and security that they would normally get from a herd, and they start to experience that leadership, then you know you can ask for anything, and the horses will start to give it to you. But it's just establishing that leadership, and often it's becoming a worthy leader, and a worthy leader is compassionate, empathetic, but also has good skills. And that's one of the things that takes time, is to develop the skills, especially in your groundwork. A lot of people say to me, you know, I make it look easy. I've done it thousands of times. So practice makes perfect.
Yeah, I'm going to keep going. He's too nice, and he deserves something, really. Because if I don't do anything with him, he's only 5. What's his life going to be like?
Yeah.
Where's he going to end up?
Exactly.
Yeah, he'll be a lawnmower with laminitis. It'll be like a lawnmower, and he'll end up with laminitis at some place, and I can't let that happen to him. So I've got to give him some chance. It's not been his fault, so I think he's still young, and I think we'll get somewhere with him. I don't know what we're going to do, and I think that's quite a good thing, not to plan that he's definitely going to be a driving pony. But if he ends up as a lead rein pony for my granddaughter, that would be just as good, really. Just something.
That's
he's clever. He's clever. He needs to learn.
Yeah, that's the thing, eh? And I look forward to being part of your journey.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Wayne.
Pleasure, Viv. Thank you for joining us. Anyone else got any questions? I just want to shout out to Linda. Thanks for joining us, Linda. And Jean, Debbie, Gemma, Sarah, and Viv. So if there's no more questions, we can call it a wrap there. But if you've got a question, I'm here to take it.